The Lishavul did not arrive with a declaration of war. They arrived with the sound of a world cracking open. They were a species of chitinous, multi-limbed industrialists who viewed the galaxy as a ledger of raw materials. To them, Earth was not a home to 7 billion souls. It was a high-yield deposit of globinium, a rare, violet-hued isotope buried deep within the planetary mantle. Globinium was the ultimate catalyst, a substance that could stabilize wormholes and power civilizations for eons. The fact that a primitive bipedal race was walking on top of it was, to the Lishavul, a minor logistical inconvenience. The invasion lasted only weeks. The Lishavul orbital harvesters ignored our cities, focusing their tectonic drills on the tectonic plates. They didn't even bother to enslave us. They simply let the resulting earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions do the clearing. By the time the atmosphere was choked with ash and the oceans were boiling, half of humanity was gone. The Lishavul had already begun lowering their massive extraction needles into the crust, uncaring that the planet was dying beneath them. Then, the sky turned to gold. Out of the darkness of the ruined orbit came the Kunari. They were beings of soft, shifting light and crystalline structures, the ancient stewards of the galactic balance. They had watched the Lishavul's predations for centuries, but the cracking of Earth was a step too far. They knew they couldn't defeat the Lishavul in a direct, conventional war without destroying the very planet they sought to save. Instead, they gave humanity the greatest gift ever bestowed upon a dying race: time. In a blinding flash that felt like a heartbeat and an eternity combined, the Kunari activated the Equinox anchor. The entire Earth, along with its moon and a tethered pocket of its atmosphere, was yanked out of the physical universe. We were shunted into the Equinox Void, a subdimensional sanctuary where the laws of entropy were suspended and time flowed at a staggering acceleration. Listen, children of Terra, the Kunari High Architect spoke into the minds of every survivor. Outside, in the realm of the Lishavul, only 5 years will pass. Within this void, you will have 5,000 years. We have given you the walls, you must build the sword. If you wish to reclaim your home, you must become the masters of the fire that burned you. Then, the Kunari faded, leaving Earth alone in a sky of swirling amber mists. The first century in the void was the age of sorrows. The surface of the Earth was a graveyard. We lived in the deep bunkers, the subways, and the geothermal vents. But humans are a species built on spite. We didn't just survive, we organized. We remembered the screaming of the tectonic plates and the sight of the Lishavul needles piercing our mother. By the year 500, we had mastered the globinium the Lishavul so craved. We found that if we resonated the mineral with human neural frequencies, it didn't just provide power, it provided a bridge between thought and matter. We began to build. By the year 2000, the surface of the Earth was no longer a wasteland. It was a planetary fortress. We didn't build skyscrapers, we built capacitor spires. We didn't build planes, we built reality-folding interceptors. Every child was born with a single purpose engraved into their education: the return. We weren't just a civilization, we were a 5,000-year-old grudge. We watched the Great Eye, a Kunari-provided window that showed the real universe. We watched the Lishavul in slow motion. To us, they looked like frozen statues, their massive harvester ships hovering over the empty space where Earth used to be. For them, only 2 years had passed. They were still setting up their drills, confused as to where their ore deposit had vanished. They think we are a resource. High Admiral Sarah Vance told the assembled hegemony in the year 4999. They think we are the dirt. Tomorrow, the Equinox Void collapses. Tomorrow, we show them that the dirt has teeth. In the real universe, High Overseer Krell of the Lishavul was frustrated. The third rock had vanished in a spatial anomaly 2 years ago, and his investors were demanding the globinium. He stood on the bridge of the World Eater, his mandibles twitching in annoyance. Any sign of the planetary mass? Krell clicked. Nothing, Overseer. The spatial coordinates are empty. It is as if the planet never. The sensor officer stopped. A shockwave of violet energy rippled through the vacuum. It wasn't a rift, it was a detonation of reality itself. The Earth didn't just reappear. It exploded back into existence with the force of a supernova. But it wasn't the blue and green marble the Lishavul remembered. It was encased in a shimmering, obsidian-end violet Dyson shell. Millions of blue lights flickered across its surface, not the lights of cities, but the glow of weapons arrays the size of continents. "What is that?" Krell shrieked, his chitinous armor rattling. "Target it! Fire the deconstructor beams!" The Lishavul fleet, 1,000 ships strong, unleashed their pride. Beams of white-hot antimatter lanced out, capable of turning a moon to glass. The beams hit the human shell and simply slid off. Inside the Equinox Void, humans had spent a millennium perfecting temporal friction plating. To the human shell, the Lishavul beams weren't just energy, they were old. The human shields existed a fraction of a second in the future, meaning the Lishavul attacks were trying to hit something that wasn't there yet. Lishavul command. A voice boomed over every frequency, a voice backed by the weight of 5,000 years of collective rage. This is Earth. You owe us for the property damage. The human response was not a beam of light. It was a kinetic harvest. From the obsidian shell, millions of small, needle-like projectiles were launched. They were tipped with stabilized globinium and accelerated to 99% of the speed of light. To the Lishavul, it looked like a cloud of dust. Then the first needle hit a Lishavul dreadnought. Because the needle was moving at relativistic speeds and was encased in a time acceleration field, it didn't just punch a hole. It delivered the kinetic energy of a mountain. The dreadnought didn't explode. It was vaporized into subatomic mist in a nanosecond. The Lishavul fleet began to vanish. It wasn't a battle. It was a delete command. One by one, the massive harvester ships, vessels that had terrorized a dozen systems, were struck by the tiny, angry rocks of humanity. Overseer Krell watched as his entire armada was dismantled in less than 3 minutes. The World Eater was the last ship left. He fell to his many knees as a human boarding craft. A sleek, terrifying needle of black metal pierced his bridge. The doors hissed open. Out stepped Admiral Vance. She didn't look like a primitive, she looked like an evolution. Her skin shimmered with integrated globinium circuits and her eyes were the color of a dying star. Wait, Krell clicked, his voice a pathetic rasp. The Kunari, they cheated, you had thousands of years, this isn't fair. Vance walked up to him, her boots clicking on the metal floor. She looked at the Lishavul overseer, a creature that had ordered the deaths of billions for the sake of a mineral. You're right, Vance said softly. It isn't fair. We spent 5,000 years thinking about how much we hated you. Every song we wrote, every machine we built, every child we raised. It was all for this moment. She leaned in close, her eyes glowing. You wanted the globinium, she whispered. Now, you're going to see what it does when it's angry. Vance didn't kill him. Instead, she placed a small, humming device on the floor of the bridge. The Kunari taught us how to fold space, Vance said as she turned to leave. We taught ourselves how to fold time. This device will put your ship into a localized Equinox Void, but we've reversed the flow. Inside this bridge, time will move 1,000,000 times slower than the rest of the universe. You will spend the next 10 billion years watching your empire crumble through the windows. You will watch the stars go cold. You will watch the end of everything alone in this room. No! Krell screamed, lunging forward. He froze midair. The device pulsed. To the rest of the galaxy, the World Eater simply became a statue, a frozen monument of failure hanging in the shadow of the new Earth. Vance returned to her ship and looked out at the recovered Earth. The Kunari appeared one last time, their crystalline forms bowing in respect. They hadn't expected the humans to become this powerful, this unified. They had created a monster to kill a monster, and in doing so, they had birthed the new guardians of the sector. Home, Vance whispered. The obsidian shell retracted, revealing a world of impossible beauty, a planet where nature and hyper-advanced technology lived in a perfect, spite-forged harmony. The Lishavul were gone, their names erased from the stars. Humanity hadn't just survived the dark, they had brought the dawn back with them, and it was a dawn that would never end. The revenge was complete, not through the death of a race, but through the eternal, slow-motion realization of their own insignificance. For the Lishavul, the harvest was over. For humanity, the story was only just beginning.